begin tonight with Fran Townsend, former Homeland Security and counterterrorism advisor to President George W. Bush and president of the Counter-Extremism Project. Fran, great to see you tonight.
Good to be here.
So you heard it there from our officials, and just this weekend, the Wall Street Journal editorial board coming out and saying America's day is coming, and saying that President Obama needs to wake up to this reality. Your take on it?
Look, when you look at the numbers, you heard Chairman McCall tell you, we understand that there are a minimum of 250 foreign fighters here in the United States. What do I mean? These are 250 people who traveled over, fought, were trained, and came back. In addition to that, the FBI has identified 1,000 subjects of investigations. What does that mean? That means individuals who have some tie or affiliation with ISIS. It may be a social media account, like Director Comey mentioned. It may be a common telephone number.
That's already here in the United States.
These are people, this is 1,250 folks here in the United States, 250 of which have actually fought. So what resources do they have against that? So if you ask the FBI, at least privately, what they'll say is they only have the resources to cover 60 to 70 24/7. That means the rest of that, they have to make judgments every day about priorities. They may be right or wrong. By the way, they don't have the data they used to have from the metadata program due to encryption. So they're making these priorities on limited information. And so, you never know if the guy that you decided not to cover is the guy who's going to pull off an attack like the Paris attack.
President Obama says we're not changing our strategy. We may enhance it. We're going to continue it more robustly, but we're going to continue doing the same old thing. If you were advising him in the way you advised President Bush, what would you tell him to do differently?
Well, look, it's one thing to say you want to defeat ISIS. It's another thing to have an actual strategy that's adequately resourced to do it. And that's the problem. One, there's not a strategy, but two, that's not adequately resourced. You look at the FBI's resources, MI5, the Brits announced today they're going to add in some 1,200 additional intelligence agents. We ought to be doing that.
We're not adding any.
No, that's exactly right. We ought to be adding law enforcement and intelligence officers to attack this problem. We ought to be trying to get them the tools they need, a revamped metadata program. President Obama held a cyber summit in Silicon Valley. He ought to go to his partners in Silicon Valley and talk to them on the encryption issue and the damage it does.
Those are the ones who can help us.
Exactly.
Right? We have the best experts at that in the world. Why can't they help us tap into these networks so we can hear what's going on? But here's the thing, Fran, is there something we like to believe that we have some special magic that might protect us. Notwithstanding 9/11, people still believe this. Some special magic that might protect us, that might snuff out these plots before they happen. Is that true?
Well, look, we've got the best capability in the world, but unfortunately, when all you're playing is defense, you're bound to lose. The guy who's playing offense only has to be right once. You play in defense, you got to be right every day. That's a problem. Just the law of averages is against you. And frankly, I do think part of this is we've got to play offense. We've got to try to get them overseas. We need additional resources in Iraq and Syria. We need to increase the troop presence in Iraq. We need to expand the rules of engagement. There's a whole series of things. If I was advising the president, I'd advise him we got to play offense.
You raise a good point about increasing our resources here, first and foremost, which is not something that we've been told what he's going to do. Fran, thank you for being here.
Thanks.